I think the first thing we've got to do. Hello, everyone. By the way, we're just talking to each other here because I've got to now do a bit of acting and pretend that. Oh, look, there's Amy.
Hi.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Oh, very. What are you doing in my house?
I don't know. Just walked in here.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. This is our first ever podcast. Letmelive. Amy is
Hi.
here with me. Hello, Amy. And you know me as Deano, but you might know me on the channel as Thelas. Big. Well, I was going to say I'm a big Last of Us fan. I think we both are.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially with the new one coming up.
All the hype.
The hype is real.
And the feels were real in the first game. Do you think we're going to get the same feels?
We've got to have something. Something's got to get us, even if it's sort of in the middle or at the end.
Yeah.
Something's going to happen.
We don't want to speculate. We don't like the people who speculate on the game.
They've got to keep uniform to the original.
Yeah, and I think if we don't need to talk about anything to do with the story, but if we're talking about the major feels, I think where we're going to get those, it can be right at the start, right at the end.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there won't be feels in the middle, because we all like feels.
Yeah.
No, that was going to come out wrong. But they would be, I think, in comparison, fairly muted throughout the rest of the game. Anyway,
how successful the first one was, they know that they did everything right in the first one, so they're not going to want to do anything entirely different because it would be going away from the original game, which was very successful.
And with Neil Druckmann already saying that we're changing the theme from love to hate, even if it was the other way round, I don't suppose you would need anything different in the way that the game is. But of course, when you're going from the very positive thing of love to the very negative thing of hate, you are taking something away in terms of your positive feeling towards the game, which makes you think, well, if they're taking something away, what are they going to replace it with? There's got to be something in there which is going to make us uplifted and happy at the end of the game.
It's like when they did that with Ellie, they took her innocence away, as it were, when the whole scenario with David happened, and you just get this concept of her looking at the war memorial of her dear, and you instantly feel that something's been lost. And when we're going into the other game now, The Last of Us 2, we're going to see that Ellie as she's grown up to be now.
Yeah, and as I kind of indicated in one of the videos from the past week or so, we do have this. If what Naughty Dog is saying is true, and let's say we always take what they say with a pinch of salt. Anyway, that's one of the things we love about them. But if what they're saying is true, and we're going to have this angry. Not bitter. Bitter is the wrong word. Bitter is a cheap word. But this driven by hate kind of character. Well, somehow we still have to love her, and that's difficult when you've got that nasty stuff going on.
You kind of join in with her and try and take on the emotions that she's experiencing, and kind of a third-party empathetic approach to her.
Yeah.
Is that?
Well, it almost felt in the first game, though, that it wasn't a third party. We actually felt that we were totally there with her.
Because we were so drawn into the game.
Yeah.
And with it, especially on your first playthrough, you're drawn to it and you're absorbing it. And you're literally going through the game and you're like, when you see that part in the car with Joel driving off, and you're thinking, you can't have just left her there.
That's a brilliant thing I wanted to just mention. Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. How many times, and I've seen it often enough, I just want to ask you how often you've seen it, when you see people giving judgmental, no, they're evaluating what Joel did at the very end, and they're all saying, he was so wrong to do that, denying the world this potential saving through a vaccine. Okay, but those very same people are the ones who, as they see that beginning of the drive away, they're going, oh shit, he's not left her there, surely no. Yeah. And then when you hear her, they're going, yes, Ellie's alive, Ellie's alive.
Oh my god, you nearly had me there, Joel.
Yeah. But the same people at the end will still say that Joel was wrong to do that.
Yeah, there was part of me when I first played the game, first watched it being played, I thought, I think it was a bit selfish of Joel to do that, but as I started to grow love for the characters, I was like, no, actually, why should she?
Yeah.
She might have been the cure for mankind, but hey ho, there's hardly any mankind left.
Yeah.
Especially with the hunters turning out how they have. So, you know.
Well, that's a good thing, by the way. But I'm not going to pretend to anybody who's listening to this that we went into this completely unprepared. I hold in my hands a tiny little pocket reporter's thing. How big is that? About 2 inches across and 5 inches deep or something like that. It's a tiny nothing. We just made an extremely short list of things that we thought might be worth talking about, both for this game and for, of course, the sequel, which is what this is. This is why we're doing it, because we're so hyped up. And the whole idea of the cordyceps fungus itself and its condition by the time we get to part 2 is an interesting one. But I think I'm not saying that we have to do anything in order, but we've kind of got a list, and we've got cordyceps actually mentioned twice, for one for each game. The one thing that we didn't originally have on the list, which was just me forgetting to write it, but we're going to be looking at this quite a lot, is the art. It's so important to the game, and it's such a massive thing. Amy's here with a, sorry, is that an iPad or is it?
iPad
Yeah,
Pro.
iPad. You see, I do know my tech.
Not too cabbage.
Loaded with all of these art images from the studio.
Some of these concepts actually have moss on them.
I'm going to call him Sterling.
And he's only got 3 fingers.
Yeah, I can understand why they would change that. You know, they are human beings. They're not going to turn into claws, dragon claws or things like that. And they do
mention in the art book that they did take away features in the concept because of the becoming more of an alien-like environment, and they didn't want to come across like that. They wanted it to be as natural as it could be.
Yeah, because you're
that
talking
was wearing
about
a watch. That bloater.
Oh my word!
He's wearing a watch. I doubt he needs to know the time, but and that one's got some kind of spikes on his back.
Wow. It's turning into more like a sea. Some of these got sea creature feel to them, haven't they? But I really appreciate the fact that they decided not to go for what you call the stock monster of video games.
More of a swamp look monster
that
they were looking at going towards.
Yeah.
I mean, look at that one. I'll send you this.
Yeah.
And then you can put them on the video.
But one of the joys of the game is the even the infected. You're constantly reminded of the fact that they are ultimately human. They've just been infected by this terrible condition, and they have a fungal growth which kind of erupts out of them. But you don't need more than that. It doesn't have to be more dramatic, does it?
No.
And that's what they've achieved so well with it. Well, seeing as it wasn't, we're talking about the cordyceps fungus now. It wasn't at the top of the list, but there's no reason it can be. This was just, a case of jotting down ideas as we thought of them. This is a work of fiction. That's the first thing that we have to remember. So there have to be liberties taken, suspension of disbelief, and all that kind of thing. And we've just actually come back from a very nice Italian restaurant lunch. It was lovely, wasn't it? Very nice place. Check out Briscola in Bollington, guys, because you have to be nearby, don't you? Right, okay, sorry, that's the subject. We were just nattering over lunch, talking about the role of cordyceps in the sequel. And it's something I've been toying with for a while, is the idea that it could effectively be kind of dead anyway.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. Because it's one of the developers said that the at 2033, the time of the original game, 90% of the world population is dead. So really, once you've moved on another 5 years, how many people are there left to infect or indeed to feed on? It's got to be pretty difficult for them to survive.
Yeah,
now.
They're going to find less and less people on it because they've turned. Definitely,
and they don't have
dying
this
out. I mean, it could have exceeded its life.
Yeah, and they don't have this problem-solving ability, which would say that if there's no humans there, then we need to go and feed on something else. They can't. They don't have the processes.
No.
I mean, really, they shouldn't exist in the first place anyway.
No.
The very first winter should kill them all. They've got no way.
So. I mean, look at what our conversation about fungi earlier.
Yeah.
About you put it in the fridge and it eventually dies.
Yeah.
That's because it's still a living thing.
Yeah.
and being brought down to that temperature, it's going to die.
And the infected can't go around gathering firewood and building fires and getting nice little homes to live in.
No, unless it goes and plants its feet in the ground and waters itself.
They migrate?
Yes. Looking at this artwork here, the concept artwork, there's actually two joined together.
Which kind of...
Two clickers or runners joined, it's like they've died together and merged somehow with the fungi, which I think would be an interesting thing to see in the actual game.
It's kind of feasible. If they were Siamese twins, it'd be helpful.
Oh, yeah.
But I suppose if you've... Just supposing you had a couple who both got infected at the same time, and it said, well, whatever happens, we will die in each other's arms.
Yeah.
And that's precisely what happens.
And their skin eventually merges in with each other, as it does, like it scabs up, as gross as it sounds, and eventually it just is the fungi, the infection, takes over, and it's actually created this. I think they could have done that. I think that could have been a good little storyline in there.
It would be, and in terms of potential enemies to face, it would be far better than some of these ridiculous comments. We want to see huge super bloaters.
Yeah,
and it's kind of no, it's just not going to happen. This isn't a Japanese game with stupid dragon frigging mega bosses. It's not like that.
This one, as you guys can see from the picture, it could have been one of those where say in the house where you go and find a couple there and you're killing both of them, then Ellie's like, oh my god, what did we just see? And then we find a file on a table and it tells a story about what just happened to them, we'll die together, blah blah blah. It could have been something else to introduce into the game, and maybe they'll do that in the second one.
Certainly, they did it with
it's there. They've actually
Danny.
They have actually thought hard about it for the concept art to be there, and other than that one, the scales.
The funny thing is, I really enjoyed seeing all of those notes, not just from Mission Danny, but from the other ones that you see outside the sewers as you're exploring the houses. They are great, though. Those notes are a fantastic insight, but we don't need to see any of the characters have their stories told anymore, or in a different way. In fact, in the cases of Ish and all the ones that we've discovered, we wouldn't, because we found those notes in those locations.
Yeah.
There's no reason why there would be more things about them scattered elsewhere in Seattle.
No, it's just like kept there, and then there you go. You got a little bit of story about them.
Yeah, just it's perspective on the world that these characters now live in.
Yeah.
But do you think they would carry on with that idea in the sequel, to have these letters and notes?
Yeah, I do. I think to be able to see the rest of The Last of Us, essentially, I know it's just Ellie and Joel that represent The Last of Us. They're all the living beings out there of The Last of them. Yeah. So, they're going to bring in more files for you to collect and find out a story about them. Maybe even these conjoined clickers. You never know.
Yeah.
They might have they said that in the second one there's a dog.
Yeah, somebody owns a dog. It is not necessarily Ellie's dog or Joel's dog, or there is a dog. In the same way that we were talking about this and having a bit of a laugh about it earlier. We've seen what will evidently be a baby, and people are saying Ellie's had a baby.
Oh god!
Like Ellie is the only person in the world capable of giving birth.
I don't even want to think about Ellie having a baby. I think she'd. I don't think she'd commit to that.
She's in a way, just by being the angry, furious, wanting to kill everybody, 19-year-old bitch woman, Ellie. Yeah. She's lost enough innocence as it is.
Yeah, she doesn't want to introduce any more hurt by probably losing the baby to a clicker along the way, or it's an inconvenience for them to have a baby.
Yeah.
Because of the noise and everything. If they had to hide somewhere, you got a noise from the baby wailing.
And I can't see a really worthwhile story angle to Ellie having a child.
You get fed up eventually of having this baby on your own.
Mewling, screaming,
it's like,
shitting.
What am I playing? The Last of Us or fucking...
Yeah, are we babysitting here?
Yeah. Oh my god, can we pay a babysitter? Come over here.
I just imagine all the Skyrim players saying, what's a baby?
Yeah,
What's a vagina? And we were just talking. This is just going back to this idea of the notes. I'm very much for it. I'd love the idea of discovering more of these notes. The only reason why I was kind of wondering whether they would, as opposed to should, is that if we're going to go with this idea of the cordyceps kind of being on its last legs, that gives them an opportunity to bring in more and varied human enemies. We've already got this religious cult, whatever that is, but we're almost still going to certainly have the fireflies. We'll have the hunters, or they might not be called hunters. I don't know.
Yeah.
Remember, because in the original game, the hunters only exist in Pittsburgh. They're not called that anywhere else.
No.
So I don't know. Although, what's the point at which there is a point where Joel does say something like "goddamn hunters" or something like that, and it's in a very different location. So maybe that is kind of a national word that they use. But anyway, we've got those, the religious groups. We may well have the military again, but we certainly have the opportunity to bring in the absence of all of the infected, more human enemies.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more human enemies based rather than the infected.
Because
the infected are going to be like a sideline of, oh, okay, let's deal with these and then we'll get back to the hunters.
Yes, and in terms of the human aspect of the story, the infected have kind of told all of the story that they can tell anyway. We know what they're going through, we know what caused it.
Yeah, we've already been there.
Yeah.
And it's going to be one of those things like we're fighting against each other and then all of a sudden pack of clickers come like we see in the trailer.
Yeah.
Right, let's sort them out, let's get them out of the way.
It's almost as if they would retain the infected just to add some variety to the combat that you're going to do throughout the rest of the game.
Use them like in The Walking Dead. They started using the walkers as weapons against their enemies, which was very clever.
That was another thing. Yeah, I could have put that on the list. What do you think about that idea of pitting hunters or whatever enemy against the infected?
Use whatever weapons are around you, and if you draw some sound to the hunters and it helps your cause. As soon as I
first saw that and realised that it could be done in Left Behind, I thought, they've got to bring that in. They have to bring that in. But I'm wondering, to what degree can you put RNG in there to add variety to what the result of that is going to be? In other words, if you sort of say, right, well, I would much rather the infected kill the hunters here than the other way round, well then once you've thrown the brick or the bottle or whatever, you've got no control over it, surely. Then it just becomes a toss-up. You don't really know what's going to happen.
It's whether it's like a face-off between the hunters then, isn't it, and what you've thrown at them, basically.
Yeah.
Which you could be watching by, or you could be going again, like finding your own route around, getting away from the hunters, but using them to your advantage. Yeah, definitely.
That was rain. Sorry, I could just got rain on the window. But that's the thing, you see, because you if you're pitting one against the other, you can have your own plan, but you can't tell the game what your plan is.
No.
So you're still tossing a coin. If it's not already scripted, which way it will turn out. And it can't. That would be unfair, wouldn't it?
There's part of scripts in games, isn't there? With RNG, I mean, as you've seen in Anthony Caliber's speedruns, a lot of things can be manipulated for your game, which probably wasn't intended by the developer at the time.
Yeah.
And they're probably watching the Anthony Caliber speedruns and going, "How did he manage to do that?
Yeah.
Didn't we sort that? We didn't think about it." And he's managed to do it. So in this next game, it's going to be the same. You're going to get people finding different ways around, like making use of the clickers and the infected around you. Maybe something that's not RNG at all, and it just happens by the AI.
And that's it. You see, I love the idea of saying, okay, well, I've got both to deal with. Got both, clickers, army, whatever, military, I should say. So, the military, they're all very well armed, they're wearing all the stuff as well, but there's more of the infected, which means I'm going to need more resources to deal with them. So I'll tell you what, let's throw a brick in there and a bottle or whatever, get them to fight it out. At that point, are you just kind of saying, and we'll see who wins? Or is the game actually going to be pre-written to say it's always going to be the clickers that win this, or it's always going to be
it could be
hunters?
But then again, that would be taking away
That would be taking away its own RNG.
Yeah. Whereas you want them to be able to fight against each other, and then just bring the numbers down, make it a little bit easier for you.
Yeah.
Maybe in grounded mode part 2, if that's what it's called, maybe that is.
Well, there's another thing. In Left Behind, once you actually start, and it's most useful actually in the penultimate combat before Ellie ends up back at the gate to the roller door. It's the shop that she climbs into and then climbs out of again at the far end. That's where you use a few bottles and you pit the hunters and the infected against each other. It's always the same outcome. But I haven't done it, but have you ever tried doing that and then kind of joining in once it's going on to pick some off?
No, I haven't actually.
No,
I just let them get on with it.
That's it. I just wait and see what happens. And it's always the same outcome. You're left with, I think, 2, maybe 3 infected.
When I've been on the balcony before, I've thrown a brick and I've let them go face to face, in the shop. And I have gone down and there has been a couple of hunters left.
Yeah.
No clickers left, but a couple of hunters left.
Right.
Or it could be vice versa, the other way around, where there's a clicker roaming around. But
well, I've never had that variety.
no, it has happened because I did get killed. Because I didn't expect it, you see. I turned the corner and then all of a sudden...
Wow. Okay, so what we've done, by the way, and probably a little bit naughty, we've just spent a lot of time talking about the sequel. I kind of guess maybe we should be doing things in order.
Add something about the sequel that I really want to see, which I think was really stupidly missed out in the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Should be able to craft arrows. Fletch them. It's not difficult to fletch a dowel and make it into an arrow, shape it, cut it and stuff. He could have done that many times in the woods and stuff, cut down a branch.
Combine an arrow with a Molotov.
Yes, I could have done that. It wouldn't have been that difficult to craft an arrow, which would have been an awesome addition. Maybe in the second one we'll see crafting arrows. Yeah.
And also maybe upgrading arrows in such a way that, with enough supplement points, your arrow is 25% less likely to break, something like that.
Yeah. You get a stronger
draw. Oh no, you do get distance, you do get
that's
range,
by the
don't you?
Poundage that you use. But
that's representing the draw, basically, isn't it? But it does. I think I'm pretty sure that supplements,
you can get aluminium.
Parts goes towards range.
Yeah, as they go to stronger arrows through the game, you could introduce the aluminium.
That's true.
Ones which they won't snap, but they will bend. But you do have to bend them back into shape. But they are reusable, so it is realistic. Whereas a wooden one,
talking about realistic though, I think one of the loveliest touches, especially with it is just entirely with the arrows, in the game, is that you generally find that the closer you are to your enemy, the more likely that your arrow will break.
I never knew that. I've always gone for the torso because I've always found that less breakages. I've gone for the torso. If I go for the head, the legs, or anything, it snaps.
I think the way that the logic that they've used is very good. Is to sort of say, well, if you've got the arrow, you've got the bow all the way strung back like that, and you're right up against something, just the impact, it would probably shatter the arrow, and that's
realistically,
brilliant.
If you was that close to someone as well, you'd be hurting yourself. Draw weight would be pulling back, and you'd be gradually hitting yourself.
But it's also giving this idea that over a distance, the arrow would lose enough velocity to not be quite as susceptible to breakage, right? But the thing is, what's fantastic about that is that you are being rewarded for taking the longer shots.
Yeah, and you get your arrow back because it's more like it's going in at an angle. Because in the game it's not as straightforward as you just take it, your sight is there straight in front of you, not like a gun. You actually have to go in at an angle, and as it goes down and the weight goes down into your enemy, it's having a softer land, but it's also penetrating at the same time. So it is going to be a lot easier if you've got the good angle.
Talking of weapons, we don't really need new guns or anything like that, do we?
No. At this point in the game, where's all the ammo going to be coming from?
Yeah, probably running short on ammo, and why after 5 years would there suddenly be a new range of guns as well?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense.
It's almost like...
Or cannon would be useful. Yeah.
But at this point now, it's like, how many bullets can they really have left that they haven't used?
Yeah.
I mean, unless they've found a stash of military bunker somewhere.
Am I right in thinking that whichever short and long guns you've got, all of the ammo that you collect unique to one gun? Because I think what might be nice is, 9mm is 9mm. So it doesn't matter what type of gun you've got. If it's 9mm, if you can find 9mm ammo, it will fit either gun. So you could have the choice of saying, well, I want to load this gun with the ammo, or I want to use this one instead, which might be quite a nice touch.
It might be, but I've not seen it before.
No, I don't think it's in this game. But I just kind of, because guns have got different guns depending on how they are. For example, if it wanted to be hyper realistic, you could say that this particular model of gun, it's very, very good, but it's a little bit heavy, so you might get a bit more weapon sway with it.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one, it's very light, very accurate, but it's not the most powerful thing in the world.
The only problem with a very light gun is that the recoil on it, the power coming from the gun, and the fact that it's so light, there's no stability there for you.
No.
It's the same as when you've got a bow. In certain bows, you need to have a stabiliser on it to counteract the weights that being lost. So to hold it in one hand, you can have it falling a certain way out of your hands. So then you need a stabiliser to bring it back level. I had one on my boat, and it stabilised it so much so that it was a lot easier to aim properly.
You see, because actually in the real world, that's the kind of thing that will happen. But the strange thing is, with even in a video game, you can have 4 or 5 different guns that you can choose from, and it's an instinctive thing. You're always going to say, yeah, actually, I like using that one the best.
Yeah.
For some reason, I just like the way that it handles on the screen. It seems happier with my controller to quickly aim and sweep and whatever. But it would be nice to sort of say, well, you've collected this box of ammo here of 5 shells or whatever, but you have the choice. You can either put them in this gun or in this gun. But once they're loaded in, that's it, they're loaded in. You can't change your mind. And it might just be a nice touch. It kind of makes you think, there might be one gun that you have which is your favourite.
Here's an example. In Resident Evil 3,
right,
or Resident Evil 2 as well, you've got the grenade launcher. You've got flame rounds, you've got freeze rounds, and grenade rounds. Oh, and acid rounds. They all fit the same gun, grenade launcher. And the fact that you can interchange your ammo into something, say, against a bloater, I would think that acid would work quite well, because it would be breaking down the actual bloater itself, which would be interesting if we've seen something like that in The Last of Us. Some kind of, instead of a Molotov, it's let's throw a bottle of acid at it.
The other thing, of course, that makes us think about when you're talking about, the equipment that you can use throughout the game, generally, makes you also think of the AI behaviour, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Which we know is going to be better. It will be better because a lot of the stuff that we saw in the first game trailer was stuff that they wanted to put in, and they just couldn't. There wasn't enough space, literally not enough space on the disc to put that in.
I would have been happy with 2 discs. Don't know about you.
I don't know.
Please change disc.
Did the weird AI behaviour ever spoil it for you? Apart from just be funny at times.
It was funny. I think, like we mentioned earlier,
it infuriates speedrunners.
Yeah, it's.
But we're not speedrunners.
No,
we're not
speedrunners. So we're just taking the game casually. If an AI turns around and walks off another direction and is far away from you, and you're waiting for him to come along, I'm waiting for the door. Well, fine. It happens in games. You're like waiting around for them. They've probably got blocked on the corner or something when they're running, and they're stuck in one space. It happens with the games.
And there are occasions. The worst occasions, I think, are where you think you've taken a really clever little strat.
Yeah.
And then suddenly something just appears and grabs you, and it wasn't there. It wasn't there
a second ago, and all of a sudden it's just teleported from there to there.
Yeah.
It's like pure example of AI behaviour in grounded mode when you're in the sewers with Sam, Joel and Sam, and you've got to run through that part.
Yeah.
The stalkers are actually hiding
Well, the
You can
stalkers
see them
do.
hiding,
The stalkers
leaving you to
do
walk.
because they're crafty. The stalkers do that. But the one thing that annoys me about that part is the fact that it's easy if you're running the unpatched, but if you're running 109 and you're running it from disk, obviously, otherwise you couldn't run the unpatched. There's a stalker that comes in from the right, okay, as you're running across.
Yeah.
Now the best strat in that room is to sort of run directly towards the pillar in front of you, right in the middle of the room, and then you kind of you slow down, do a little shimmy to the left, and then you sprint round to the right, and it fools a stalker that's just on the other side of that pillar. You can then run up the stairs, throw a brick at the clicker at the top, and go straight through to the ladder, and you're fine. But the trouble is, well, yes, you will have to with that. Unlike a runner, you can't just give it a hit with the brick. You do have to throw the brick. It's a rule of the game, unfortunately. But anyway, the problem is, especially on 109, you think you've done it perfectly well, and as you're getting towards that first pillar, a bastard stalker comes in from the right-hand side, and it grabs you. Doesn't matter how far away it looks like it is.
But
it's
you
on
notice that sometimes it grabs you, but it's like it grabs you from the other side of the room, and it's hard to move.
Yeah, their arms are the size of motorways.
Yes, and that's what really frustrated me. My first run of the Last of Us Grounded mode, obviously it's not Grounded mode plus with no guns, was really difficult because you haven't got the upgraded weapons and everything. You haven't got the extras and stuff. But that part, I think about 8 hours I was trying to get through there, and all that kept happening was the clickers would hide. And then for no reason at all, they'd be there, and then all of a sudden the AI of the stalker would slide. Literally see it sliding.
Do a bit of Michael Jackson moonwalk there.
Right next to you, and you're like, the game's cheating me.
Yeah.
It's literally just like a magnet's gone.
Well, if you have to keep restarting and it does at the same time every time, then obviously that's going to really pee you off.
Oh, yeah.
But when it's just a casual playthrough, it doesn't matter what really happens. You just sort of say, well, that was funny. It was a bit unfair. Let's do it again. Yeah. And it's only when it happens for the 6th or 7th time and there's nothing you can do about it, then you're going to get peed off. But hey, nobody died. No. It's just games do this kind of stuff to you. And I'm absolutely sure that...
Hopefully...
Everything in the sequel will be sorted out.
I don't think we could get a better AI system, but it goes on how we treat the AI as well. It's reflecting on how we play the game.
Well, however ridiculous the enemy AI is during the game, companion AI is no less logical. No. How many times is Ellie or another companion just going to be walking around in front of enemies and they just can't see them?
Yeah, maybe in like Resident Evil 5, you've got a AI system where you can call over your character.
Yeah.
That could be handy because as like in Bill,
you've got to assign a button to it. And I'm not quite sure what you'd use.
Yeah, it's like you hold a certain button and then you press "come over here."
Yeah.
I mean, that would be good if you could call them over. If they're taking too long, come over here. Will you hurry up? Get your ass over here now. That could be cool.
It could be. We've just got to make sure that one thing that I'm absolutely certain they would never think of introducing. They just wouldn't do it because it would be so much against the style of the original game is on-screen commands. I don't think we'll ever see those in a Last of Us game.
It wasn't in the original, so why would they put it in?
Yeah.
I think they're going to follow suit. What I can see from the Uncharted series and the way they've dealt with that series, they've kept quite uniform along the way. I've not noticed that there's been much new apart from, the storyline change.
Yeah.
Which is why I like the series, because I went from the first one to the third one, and I was like, this is great. It's like playing the same game but different stories. Yeah. And I don't like it when they change the controls and stuff. If you start messing around with controls and
I'm sure they'll keep all of the controls and they'll stay the same. Because there's nothing to change, is there? There was nothing that was wrong with it.
They did a good job first time round. So.
And of course, one of the things that we're particularly happy about, and it does come back to the subject of the art, is of course we have the genius of Gustavo Santaolalla carry on with the music, which is probably one of the happiest things to have confirmed from the outset.
Oh yes, I'm so glad that he's continuing on. It's a he, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you should see him. It's definitely cock and balls and everything.
Oh my god!
But there was something about the music, wasn't there? And I was, as soon as I wrote down the word music on this pathetic little list here, I was wondering exactly what I could say, how I could describe what he does, and it should have been an easy thing for me to do because I've got like a musical background. I've done me bands and writing and recording and all that kind of stuff, and for a long time I was struggling to kind of describe why what he's done is so special. And you know something? I've got it.
What?
I finally worked out what it is.
Go on then, because I've got an opinion.
Right. When you listen to the music of almost any other game, well, not just games, it same applies to TV shows and films and all that kind of stuff. It's as if with the music, the composer is saying, I want the piece that I'm going to write now, I want it to represent exactly what is happening on the screen. It's bold and it's dramatic and it's got a message to, it's trying to get that thing across.
That's kind of following on from what my idea of it was that it's the same style of, it's same notes and the dum 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 dum.
Yeah.
It's that all the way through these tracks, but it's introducing different emotions through the music.
The odd thing is, is when you listen to the ones where he's done, it's like the Elgar Enigma variations, each of the variations is basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It's just a different treatment. What's very clever with what Gustavo has done is where he's taken the, especially the All Gone melody.
Yeah.
He's done all the different interpretations, but when you listen to them, the tempo is pretty much the same for each one. There's not much variety, but it's not so much what he's written, it's what he's tried to make the music do. And this is where I think a lot of other,
feel at the same time.
Well,
for the scene.
But it's supposed to be the dialogue, the script, the dialogue, and the voice acting, and the visuals, of course, are supposed to get our emotions completely worked up and involved, and we're going to burst into tears at this particular scene. But I think the best writers, with all the best talent that's out there, they might get 99% of that emotion out of you. What Gustavo does is he finds the 1% that's missing.
Yeah.
And he just does that with his gentle layering of a piece of music to say, you know what, you're nearly crying, well, I'm just going to take you over the edge with this bit here.
Oh.
And he just does it perfectly. Everything is so understated.
Yeah.
And some of the music, and I don't mean this in a negative way, is bad. Now, what I mean is, if you listen in isolation, I can't remember what the piece is called now. If you listen in isolation, I think it's called The Way It Was, but it's when they're in the triage area in Salt Lake City, and it's just that piano that's playing, this takes me back. How so? I remember triage area, just like that bit. You hear that piano. If you listen to that piece of music with nothing else, it's revolting. There's so much noise going on in the background. You can hear the pedal going all the time. It's like banging on wood, and there's almost like people opening doors in the background or something like that. It's terrible. But I'll tell you what, you just plant it onto that game in the way that it's used. It's superb. And the other great one, of course, the one that everybody loves, is All Gone No Escape from the hospital.
Oh.
Which is, oh yeah. I mean, I sort of feel myself, whenever Anthony is starting to stream, he's got 10 minutes of the music.
Yeah.
And I'm not listening to all the songs going through, and I'm thinking, yeah, I really love that. And then as soon as All Gone No Escape, there's that instant tingle that happens.
And you envision him running with Ellie and
how dramatic. According to any other game developer in the world, how dramatic was that music supposed to be?
I know.
It was supposed to be really tense and violent and drums beating and fanfares. And
it completely did the opposite.
Yeah.
And gone, we're going to make this an emotional part.
Yeah.
We're going to really tug on the feels here. There's gunfire in everywhere. People shouting, screaming and everything. And you just got this music that is melting you.
And one of the things that makes that so powerful is the fact that you do have the option, if you want, of killing all 3 doctors in that room. You only have to kill one.
To kill them all.
But you can. Yeah, but if you do choose to kill them all, and it's especially the case when this happens, if you do kill them all and you're carrying Ellie and suddenly you have that piece of music, you get that little, fuck Joel, what have you just done?
Oh.
You know, it's kind of, that music has got that message that says, this isn't, you've just rescued Ellie, but don't think this is a happy moment.
But it could have been, by killing them all, he's protecting Ellie in the future, because obviously surgeons are a rarity.
Yeah.
So, safer bet to kill them all than have them living in with their expertise.
Yeah, but you've got a doctor there. Well, basically you've got a doctor and a couple of nurses. I think that's.
It's like in The Walking Dead. They go for doctors and stuff to stop people. You know, most important person. They'd take a doctor out because they're a rarity to have. So taking the surgeons out, I think, is a good bet to help avoid.
That's an interesting thing. It's an interesting thing about about that climax to the game, is you would have thought that right at the end like that is going to be the ultimate boss battle. That is kind of going to be the one that's the hardest to get through. But you can do that entire section. You don't have to kill one. You just kill the doctor in the end. You know, you can brick the Firefly that comes through the doors on the first level. After you go through the canvas tunnel kind of thing, he comes through that door. You can throw a brick at him. Actually, you can, if you're very skillful, you can avoid him altogether. As long as you can get that triangle prompt.
Sometimes you end up grabbing him anyway because of.
But in theory, at least. I mean, you can't do anything about poor old Ethan. He's going to get it in the cutscene. So, but throughout that whole thing, you can actually do that entire section just by killing one doctor.
And Marley.
Well, yeah, but you've got no control over that. Well, you've got no control over either, but the death of Marley is obviously just a cutscene thing. You can have, you can hesitate over killing the doctor, give yourself time to think about whether you personally think it's the right thing to do, but...
How long can you stand there before...
I'm not quite sure. I don't know if there is a limit. Never tried it.
Before,
I just checked to see if I've still got the flamethrower, because,
It makes you wonder, though, doesn't it? How long do you have to stand there before the doctor actually turns around and knifes you? Or does he at all?
I don't think so. I've never tried it. I can only guess that if you do leave it too long, maybe Firefly soldiers come in. That's all I can think of.
I'm going to have to try that.
Yeah.
Just for curiosity, and maybe even try the photo mode during that.
Yeah.
That could be interesting. Yeah,
really,
find some different details in the room that maybe we haven't seen.
Little podcast secret here. Amy and I were just looking at my Twitter account earlier on, and one of the guys who's a Last of Us fan had posted some PS4 Share It pictures from the game. Oh my god, they look good. So the music, anyway. We don't even need to talk about what Gustavo is going to do in the sequel. We know he will continue to be absolutely amazing. Sorry, my Italian food was just sort of saying hello. But here's an interesting thing. Do you think he will actually keep the same themes?
You mean...
the melodies that we're familiar with? Or
they might alter it a tiny bit, I think. I don't think they'll do too much to it, but they're going to... I think they're going to... He's going to do it again.
Yeah.
He's going to come back with something else that we immediately go, oh my god.
Oh god, yeah. If you get that memory that hits you just because of...
The fact that they've brought in Sean... the one who does the Through the Valley of the Shadow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I mean...
comical.
What?
Part sequel theory. Actually, that line, though I walked through the valley of death, okay, actually comes from the Psalm of David. So that proves that David must be coming back, doesn't it?
Oh my god, well there you go.
That's hands
Game
down,
over.
that's
we
it.
Found
David's back.
Damn,
yeah.
David will not be back.
No.
And there won't be any flashbacks either.
No, please.
It's not their style.
I can't say for certain that they won't, but I certainly don't want them to.
No.
Right, I can get my little pen here. Just I need to cross off things because we're sort of doing two things here. We're trying to make sure we don't miss anything out. Don't want to repeat things, and also check the time as well because you've got quite a long drive back. Okay, right. So and we've talked about the art. I think rather than talk about the art, what I'm going to do is when we come to upload this video, just grab everything.
I'll send you the entire book. It's in image format, and you can take them.
Oh, marvellous.
This particular image that we'll be looking at right now, it's Ellie and a dog in the snow. And it actually does say in the art book, early artwork of this environment, including Ellie with a dog companion.
Yeah.
So initially, it looks like, the dog that she's near isn't a stray or anything. It was going to be a companion. It looks like a Doberman of some sort. But they're very chilled and relaxed with each other. It's
chilled.
Ellie.
It's snowing. Look at the snow there. They would be chilled, wouldn't they?
It's definitely Ellie.
I do have mixed feelings about animals in any way in the game. We are pretty sure that there is a dog, but probably not just quite an incidental thing. You see, the problem with animals, and this goes back to the idea of infected animals as well. First of all, that's unrealistic, but I think the other problem is that we don't empathise with animals in the same way that we do with human beings. An animal doesn't have motivations or feelings as we kind of understand as feelings, It's either aggressive or it's not. It either knows that you're going to feed it or not. It's, it's either threatened or not. But we don't sort of form unless we have one as a pet, we don't have a deep kind of bond with it. And it's very difficult to think of infected animals where you couldn't like them for a start. They are immediately enemy. So your only job is to kill them. Where's the satisfaction? Where's the kind of, I wish I didn't have to do that. You don't. You just point and you shoot your gun and that's it. You kill him. And just for the amount of work that would be involved to, create and then animate infected animals, I don't think it's worth it. I really don't.
But as you've seen by the horse in The Last of Us 1, and seeing dogs, it's like Tommy says, he's comes in handy. Something along those lines. And also, they could be good hunters as well. They could go out and hunt a rabbit, a hare, for you. So I think, in general, they should see more dogs, and they should try and breed them as their own, as hunters.
Yeah.
As well, because they could become a useful asset to them.
Well, they could be. I'm just wondering about the physical implementation of something like that in the game. We've got to be careful. I like the idea of a character having a really cute pet dog or something like that.
It would be loved, but at the same time, it's there for, to sniff out danger, to help hunt the food, like a farmer's dog, Say Ellie shoots down a pheasant or something, the dog goes and gets it. It's like a team that they're working with, and from like what I'm seeing here with the companion dog, it could have been useful. Maybe.
All right, one request then. We don't get to play as the dog.
No.
Nah.
We don't want to play as a dog, no.
Playable characters. Well, playable characters is another one, because of course one of the things that the sequel has introduced is new characters. At least 4 new characters.
But are they new characters? Are they characters that we've seen in documents?
Not the ones played by Emily, what's her name, and him Dudar, Alexander somebody. No, they're entirely new, but we know that they'll be important. But it's very easy, even with whoever Laura Bailey's playing, or whether Shannon Woodward is involved in some way, we don't know. But whoever these characters are, we've not got to kind of overthink their roles in the sequel, for the simple reason that we won't play as them. They're always going to be in scenes that involve the ones that we do play, which is either Ellie or Joel. If Laura Bailey is Anna, so what? Yeah. We're not going to play as Anna. Whoever this character is going to be somebody that we meet and who becomes a part of the story.
Yeah, a bit like Henry and Sam were.
Yeah.
But I was happy with the amount of time they was in.
Oh yeah, definitely. And here's a question. For each of those incidentals that we've had. So we've had Tess, we've had Bill, we have Henry and Sam, but also to an extent. Actually, for a decent amount of time, Tommy. It's always been a case of they've been in and then out.
Yeah.
The game.
And then it's back to Ellie and Joel.
So, and in each case, of course, because we've always played as one of the two, they've always been present with this secondary character or characters, and that's going to be how it continues.
If you separate
Ellie and Joel are the Last of Us. Yeah.
If you separate them, I'd be very disappointed. Let's say if one went missing and say Ellie's got to find them, I wouldn't like that. they need to be together all the time. I mean, I know Ellie leaves them in Left Behind for a bit to try and find some medical kits and everything.
Well, that's a really interesting point, because a lot, forget this idea. Anybody who's going to say that Joel is dead or dies, just shut up, get in the bin. It's just not going to happen. But here's an interesting thing. We do know that we're going to play as Ellie. Are we going to play with Ellie with Joel as a companion at the same time? And the only reason I ask that is that what was so powerful about the first game was their interaction. Now, if you've got this story where Ellie is striking out on her own without Joel, he's left behind doing something else, you've not got that banter going on anymore.
I find it very difficult to play as Ellie with Joel tagging along.
It's awkward to try and imagine it, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, hang on a minute, Joel's the one that says this goes on, that goes on.
But there must have been a brainstorming session at Naughty Dog when they sort of said, look, it's these two characters that make the game. They have to be together in one way or another. So how do we make that work?
Though, and they can't swap that around just because.
Well, you say can't. You see, this is why I talk about a brainstorming session, because I'm sure that they must have realised. Hang on, are you honestly saying that we're going to play as this a little girl, with this old guy who's just going to be an NPC? Can we do that? And then people are going to say, well, no. And then others are going to say, well, we can't. We just got to find a way of doing it. And I'm pretty sure they must have brainstormed and they've come up with an answer.
Well,
we don't know what it is. We've got no idea.
Isn't that Joel's just tagging around at the back?
No, I don't think he will be. I think they'll just be very, very clever in the way that they write his role in each scene in the game.
Yeah.
He's going to be. You're never going. We were talking about the prospect of some open world elements in the sequel, but I think it's going to be the same kind of thing. We can't imagine that open world would work for the simple reason that, first of all, what we got in the first game didn't feel like it was closed. There was plenty to explore, and being open world would add complications in terms of triggering dialogues and that kind of stuff. But it's the same thing. It wasn't open world, but it kind of felt like it. Yeah. And this same thing could apply to Joel. The fact that we know that we're not actually playing Joel. We know that what's effectively happening is he is just tagging along. But somehow they've written this dialogue and the gameplay so it doesn't feel like it. They've given the illusion that he's a lot more active than he actually is. I think they've got the skill to do it. They do have the skill to do it. And they'll amaze us just by doing it.
They're going to amaze us.
That brings us on to something. We don't need to. I don't want to talk about things really like new characters in the sequel. We start to move too easily into speculation, which we'll get to talk about in a little bit. There is something that we touched on. There's something we touched on when we were talking about the AI behaviour. Speedrunning. Right, be honest. What is your opinion of speedrunning now the same as it always been? Or has it kind of changed at all?
It's changed from what it used to be. Since doing it myself with Resident Evil Desperate Escape and actually getting first plays on speedrun.com.
Oh, crikey, yes, I remember that.
It felt
Your hand, please. Well done.
It felt good. It was like, I've managed to do that myself, and it took loads of tries, but I did it. I got my bragging rights to be able to say it. Just like Anthony Caliper gets his bragging rights to say about his speedruns. And a lot of other people that I know that do speedruns, and they get onto the board, and it's like, there you go, I've mastered it, okay, let's move on to the next one. It is a personal challenge, because not only are you challenging against other people, but it's yourself. You're like, some people won't even submit some of their speedruns. I mean, I've got speedrun on veteran, and I haven't even uploaded a time, because I'm not happy with it. No. So even though I'd be the only one on the board at the moment with veteran, I don't want to upload it because I want there to be I know I can do better. And I know Anthony Caliber sees that, and he sees each time he does a speed run, I can do better because I got slowed down at that part.
Yeah.
And he knows that if he gets that part perfect, he's got a really good try at it. But each time, something's stopping him, and he's trying to get the perfect run. So it's all the way through, no timers anywhere, it's just all golds.
And just another thing on attitudes towards speedrunning, any percent or glitchless?
Glitchless. I don't think glitches should be used.
Good girl.
Because it's defying the game logics and stuff. I mean, no disrespect to Bork whatsoever. I love Bork, he's funny, lovable character. But his Tomb Raider run, he's doing with the glitch, where you can stand at the corner of a ledge, and you jump in a certain way, and then automatically you are above and you're on top of that ledge. You could have just missed out a whole puzzle.
Yeah.
And no, that's not my type of speedrun.
No,
I like watching it, but at the same time, it's like, you cheated.
It's technically interesting, but it's what I would call not in the spirit of the game.
No, it's in a category of its own. You do get people challenging each other with the glitches, see if they can beat it faster with the glitches. That's fair enough. That's between themselves. It's not for me, though.
I think it's far more enjoyable to watch as well.
Yeah.
Because you can't exactly say that you'd be watching Anthony do a speed run and you're getting a sense of the story, but you are kind of engaging in the atmosphere. You feel the tension that's there. You know what's coming up.
Yeah.
And if you're a reasonably experienced player enough to know kind of, you're doing this bit, and yes, you remember what that next bit is that you've got to do. But supposing you're doing, say, the bookstore in Pittsburgh, and you're kind of thinking, well, hang on, I need to collect this. I need to pick this up, because I need them in the hotel.
Yeah.
It's relying on your skill. But if you know what the glitch is, you can get into the water towards the pallet and then go over to the right-hand side and avoid all of the hotel, even the basement section.
There's a particular glitch in the game. I remember a good friend and streamer of mine, he said that it was impossible to do The Last of Us grounded mode with no guns, without the use of guns, basically, just the use of an arrow. I took that as a challenge. I went and did it.
For 4 times?
Yeah. First person to do that, even Anthony Caliber was like, nah, it's not appealing to me, it's not my type of thing. That's fair enough. But there's this glitch that was found by a few people out there, and when this particular streamer did the grounded no guns run, we was in debate whether he was going to use the shift glitch. Where you got more shifts.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, this is not valid in my head if you use the glitch, the shift, because, I didn't have that, I didn't use the glitch thing, so, it's not valid. In my head, I was like, it's not valid. Although he didn't use guns or anything, he had an infinite amount of shifts, though. So, well, not an infinite amount, a lot more than I would have.
Well, it's just
he would have found
it is just a case, at any one point, it's a case of having one more than you should, isn't it?
Yeah.
But
it was about 3 more shifts.
Okay. The way I feel about it is that particular, what they call the shiv glitch, I actually personally don't see it as a glitch. If you're not brilliant on the controls, you're still trying to get used to how to work the menus and stuff, and you're a little bit clumsy, you could do that accidentally.
Yeah, you could do it accidentally, which it puzzles me why it happens though. I mean, why that glitch happens, it just puzzles me.
And even if you...
I will admit I have used it at some point in the game, with just casual runs, but...
Yeah.
At that point, I was like, me and my friend Sakura were both like, no, you can't use that glitch. We didn't, you can't. But he did. But
you can't use that as a reason, can't you? And no, just because we didn't find it and we didn't use it, no reason to say that you can't. I just think it's that is a thing that you could do in error. And if it did happen in error, and you check your inventory and you find you've got, you'd sort of be thinking, oh, right, okay, well, that's what happens. Fair enough, well, I'll do that then.
I think it's just in my mind, if you do a particular run that someone else is going to take the challenge up on, and then they do use the glitch, then, I wish that I could go back and do the same. And I'll see how faster I can do it with the glitch. Then. So I probably did. See how fast
I've redefined in my own head what a glitch is. And I've kind of narrowed it down to the whole concept of just going out of bounds.
Yeah.
Really, that's as far as I want to see glitch. That's the point where I say, no, I don't want this now. As soon as you've moved outside the map and you've got the big blank areas or whatever, then that's the no point for me.
No, that's like what's the point?
Yeah, that's it. That is out. It's not just outside the boundaries, it's outside the spirit of the game. Normal players are not going to ever do that.
Yeah, I think Anthony Caliber does a glitch run of Left
He's
Behind.
Done. Yes, he's got. I think he's got the record on that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he has.
I don't. No disrespect to Anthony Caliber, but it doesn't really appeal me watching.
I don't mind that one because you're talking about what is it? Something like 3.5 minutes or something like that to do the entire DLC.
It's just that all I see is black things, and he's running all over black, and I'm like, where are you?
If it If it was an hour, even half an hour of that, then I would be turned off by it. I wouldn't want to watch. But that's that kind of glitch run. It's asking for a few minutes of your time, and you think, yeah, well, go on, let's just see how it's done, and it's interesting. Yeah, but glitched runs over full games.
Yeah.
You know, which knock off. In the case of The Last of Us, you only knock off about 20 minutes or something like that if you use the glitches. So why bother? You know, let's just enjoy the game. Let's see the game as it's meant to be seen.
It's another glitch. I wouldn't have known unless I didn't see Anthony Caliber do it. But the arrows when they go into the into your enemy and they're dead.
Oh, sometimes they roll over.
You have to roll the body over in order to get your arrow back. And
because the arrow is actually because it's physically sticking out of the chest or whatever.
Yeah.
If the enemy falls over, it actually goes through the map.
But think how many people have missed
their
arrows. Thinking, oh, my arrow's broken. I mean, I know the first time I went around with it, I was like, oh, my arrow's gone. And then I realised all you had to do was pretty much ball bag the enemy to get you.
Yeah, and it takes a while.
Like vigorous teabagging to get your arrow back.
Yeah, well, we all like teabagging, don't we, eh? And still on speed running. You see, and the same applies to me. I'm going to make some enemies here. When I watch the likes of GDQ and SDGDQ and AGDQ and all that kind of stuff, I just think, you virgins, you've no. Because it's always the same kind of games. It's a really uber nerdy, geeky, you know, just it's that kind of thing. And I sort, although I don't enjoy watching that at all, I take the attitude, well, get on with it. You know, that's what you do. That's absolutely fine. And those are the kind of games where you can do that. Nobody cares. Okay, nobody cares if you're not ruining anything by speed running, whatever it is. And then it came to The Last of Us, and I actually just put The Last of Us speedrun as a search in YouTube because I thought surely nobody does it. You could not speedrun this game. And when it turned out that people did, not many, it was basically Anthony, and there's nobody. I think Anthony's just got such a...
I forgot his name, but he does go head-to-head against Anthony.
Oh, does he?
There's someone else in the speedrun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know who Uranto. But Uranto does New Game Plus.
Ah.
So it's a different... Yeah, not New Game Plus isn't necessarily easier, by the way, because you actually have to think about your strats in a different way.
Yeah, you are able to use Master Shiv.
Yeah.
Shiv Master, sorry, which makes it a hell of a lot easier. Without it, you...
But it's one thing I like about that, and the reason why I think it's a good challenge on its own, is that it kind of presents dilemmas all over the place. You know, this way might be quicker, but it's going to use more ammo. Great, I've got more ammo to spare.
Yeah.
But have you? Because you're then relying on more being dropped elsewhere and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting. It's very interesting. But my first feeling on the whole concept of speedrunning was The Last of Us was, how dare you? How dare you take such a beautiful emotional story and reduce it to this mechanical process of getting through the thing as quickly as you can? But my appreciation after watching what Anthony does, and it's just knowing, and Anthony says it often enough, he is playing the game as it's not meant to be played. He points that out, and it's absolutely true. You've got to separate that need to be watching the story.
Yeah.
Just throw that out of the window completely, because that's not what you're getting. You're talking about somebody who is accepting the technical challenge of finding the shortest way through the game. And as long as you can see it in that plain black and white way, you can then really appreciate what the speedrunners do. You know, it is a genuine art.
Yeah, a lot of dedication and mastery of the game.
I was just saying when we were out earlier on, I was just doing various things last night, and there was one point at which Anthony had to ditch a run because he got mullered by a bit of silly RNG in the slums area, and I just sort of went off to do something else. I actually couldn't sleep last night. It was a bit weird. Don't know why. I'm one of these people who finds it very difficult to get into the right position to sleep. You know, my body hates it if I've got a finger that's touching the side of my face. It's a weird thing. Anyway, I couldn't sleep. I got back up, switched on the PC, and I saw that Anthony was still streaming that section 6.5 hours later, still doing that section of the game. Now, that's dedication. That's your speedrunner dedication, and I think it should be applauded. I also think Anthony probably needs some kind of drugs to help him sleep. Question. Would there be a problem with open world in Last of Us 2?
I can't imagine it in an open world, other than the multiplayer mode.
We could probably do with bigger multiplayer maps, maybe with a facility for more people to.
Yeah, maybe
play.
change it up slightly. The multiplayer I couldn't get along with. Everybody was so perfect at it. I just dead in 2 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And,
So, I've not played it. I basically did one. I think I played for about 15 or 20 minutes once, and that was it. I just kept dying, so I gave it up as a bad job.
No, I'm not playing this. Yeah, I can't imagine it being open world. And if it was, you'd probably get a lot of trolls coming up and killing you anyway.
And the other thing is the idea that what was so very, very effective with the original game is that particular lines of dialogue would be triggered by items in the world. So, for example, in Pittsburgh, you come across the car with the body hanging out of it, and did your fellow hunters do this? And he talks about, you sacrifice a few. It's a very, very important conversation. Well, if you're in an open world environment in which you can take an alternative route, bypassing that, you've missed one of the most important pieces of dialogue in the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah, open world, I think, would be a problem to me.
Yeah, it's allowing the world of The Last of Us to be open to everything possible, which, no, I wouldn't be too happy with.
No. I think one of the and it's something that we mentioned in the restaurant, making us sound posh now. No, one thing we were mentioning earlier on is that really the only way that you can make an open world environment work is if you have a mini-map visible. And again, it's the same thing. It's unrealistic. Why would Joel suddenly be, or Ellie suddenly be walking around with a mini-map? It doesn't make sense, and that would spoil it. That would spoil the immersion for me.
Yeah, nah.
You'd have to have artificial ways of things highlighting to say, "Come this way," a big bloody arrow in the sky or something.
That in games. I mean, I've been playing Tomb Raider, Rise of Tomb Raider, and I will take the easy way out and look at the. What is it? Use your instinct.
Oh yeah,
which a lot of games have, but I guess it saves running around and thinking, what do I do next? Which a lot of old games, you'd have to either go into a magazine on the shelf in a newsagent to try and hope that there was a little section where it said, "This is what you do. I'm having trouble here." You didn't have to.
Funnily enough, I've actually got one there. We do actually have here. This is. I'm so grateful to. I want to give Amy a great big kiss because I actually now have The Last of Us, the book, with everything, just everything. It's even got a free controller. Oh no, it's a picture. But the whole lot, the maps, the full story, the lore, but it's good to see the maps actually properly visualised. I've been looking for these on the interwebs, and you can't find them.
It's not easy to find,
no. So, Oh, when The Last of Us 2 comes out. There's a good one. This year?
I think this year. I reckon I'm going to put an estimate on it. Beginning of June. I reckon it's...
Really? That soon?
I reckon they're going to spring it on us.
Because here's the thing, this is the only thing that I've been able to work out, and it's not really a case of working out using any knowledge. It's kind of, this is what my feeble brain is coming up with. Naughty Dogs have got a choice. They can either invest in producing a gameplay trailer, plus investing in the cost of physically being there at E3 to show us that trailer, or they can have the game ready and say, actually, we don't need E3. Let's just launch the damn thing.
Well, they don't need E3, do they?
No, they don't. But isn't it kind of an industry tradition, though, that you have to do a couple of teaser trailers, or at least one teaser trailer, and then show a gameplay trailer at that point? Or do Naughty Dog actually have the license to just take that freedom and say, no, look, we're going to do it our way?
And think, we have a good game. We don't need E3. We are going to do this how we do this, and here's the game. And then everybody's flocking to the stores because it's so
well, that's it, because it's going to happen whenever that release date is. It's going to be flying off the shelves quicker than anything.
It could be a case of the week that they plan to release it, they just turn around and say it's going to be in stores on Summerton. And then how are we going to react? We go.
Well, that's the thing I'm hoping they certainly wouldn't do. I think that'd be very cruel on their part, because you're not talking about a game that's going to cost 10 quid. This is going to be your 50, 60 pound game. And for a lot of people, it's budgeting a couple of things. You're budgeting to be able to actually afford it in the first place. And then secondly, if you want to play the thing, and especially if you want to be one of the first ones to stream it, you've got to set aside the time for doing that. And I think Naughty Dog might I hope they are thinking to themselves, come on, let's give the guys a chance. You know, if we're going to say the game is coming out on this date, let's announce that at least a month before, so that people can save up their pocket money or set aside the week that they want to do for streaming, rather than just jump on them and say, oh, by the way, it's out tomorrow.
I hope they don't do one of those early release things where there's quite a few streamers get to have the copy before them, because that just ruins the game for people. Even if they're not watching it, you know, they know that someone else has got a copy before them. What's makes them more special than the actual someone else? Why should they get the copy first, just so they can stream it? It's like, no, that shouldn't happen.
No, some games, I would say yes. You know, I saw like the early, it's actually only a slightly early release. I think it's about a week or something like that of Burnout Paradise Remastered. And I didn't mind, you know, because you're not getting a reveal, are you? You know, you watch people streaming that. It's not saying, oh crikey, I didn't know that was going to happen. No, it's just a copy of the old game. That's fine, perfect, no problem with that. But when you're talking about something as eagerly anticipated as this, it's already got awards just for being as anticipated as it is. You know, you've got something very special on your hand. But you're absolutely right. Naughty Dog can release this anytime they want. They can just do it when they want. But I just hope that everybody has got enough notice to be ready for it. My heart would explode with delight if I walked into CEX or Game or whatever tomorrow and suddenly, there it is, it's on the shelves. No, I'm having that. But I would feel very, very sorry for 99.999% of people who that would absolutely screw up, because they couldn't just go and buy it there and then. So they couldn't just go and home and get the PS4 booted up and start streaming it.
A lot of them be taking all of their games into trade and get menial cash for them.
Yeah. And talking of streaming, then, my own view on the release, I would be amazed if it came out in June, but obviously very, very pleased. But I still got this feeling, and it's not based on any kind of evidence, that they would probably stick to form and show something at E3. But I don't, at the moment, feel the way that a lot of people do, that we're waiting until next year before it comes out. I think it may hit the November, early December market.
It might do. I'd hope it'd be sooner. Because I know E3 is coming up, but I'd hope it'd be before E3. Because the way that they've been saying that the playtest is done.
Yeah. Well, no, it's slightly misleading.
Is it?
Yeah, because I think what Troy Baker is really saying is that he's had the pleasure of doing some of the game testing. He's been involved in the game testing. Doesn't mean it's finished. And of course, the other variable is that game testing is to find the faults. Well, we don't know what they're going to find. We don't know how long it's going to take to get all those faults sorted out. But the other thing is, what we've got to bear in mind is we're forgetting that, fairly autonomous as Naughty Dog may be, they are still owned by Sony. And Sony, as a global corporation with so many fingers in so many pies, has got all of its strategies in place to say, this is when we want such and such a budget to come in. And they've got their highly trained analysts looking at the dates when things should be launched. And chances are the actual launch date was probably determined a long, long time ago. And just because Naughty Dog might be ahead or behind or on schedule or whatever, doesn't change when that launch date is going to be. So that, where they are with gameplay testing probably doesn't mean a great deal.
It's nice to see Sony's pattern on releasing certain games, see how they work. It's like whatever games they've previously made, whether they put them around Christmas time or Easter time.
Well, that's it. You see, if you just imagine that somebody at Sony they've kind of decided in their head, right? Okay, we want everybody to buy this one for Christmas. Okay, well, is there anything else that Sony are bringing out at Christmas? Why would you release one product at the same time to be in competition with another product that you're bringing out? They need to have that stepped format of bringing things out for sale. They can't control who else they're going to compete with. That will just happen. Well, although, you know, I don't see any great harm in the different developers and the different, you know, the big companies behind them actually colluding with each other to say, look, we've got this really big game that we'd like to bring out at such and such a time. When are you planning on bringing out what you're going to do? Because what's the point of us both releasing them at the same time?
Well, it'd be nice to think like that, but from a business perspective, I don't imagine that there's a lot of them that have communication like that with each other, because it is an internal competition between themselves.
Yeah, but we often get the idea that they're kind of going at each other with guns, where I think it's a lot more respectful, and, you know, they're tough businessmen, but they're also reasonable people. Generally, you know, they're open to ideas and discussion and all that kind of thing. They don't actually hate each other as such.
No, it's just a bit of fun for them, isn't it? A bit of steam to go on.
Yeah. And talking of the release, obviously what the release date will do is affect when the likes of you and me are going to whack that thing into the PS4 and start streaming. What about you? You know, do it kind of straight away?
I don't know. Part of me says I want to, but then part of me says other people are going to be streaming it, and maybe I should just watch other people play it, because a lot of the community on streaming that I'm at, friends with other people, and they will want to watch the other people play it rather than me. And to be honest, I'd be sat there like, ugh. If I only got 10 viewers watching me play it, I'd think, I want to watch them play it.
Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem. I did actually tell myself that what I was going to do was buy the game kind of as soon as possible, then play around with it offline for a while, get to know the story, get to know the path through it and all that kind of thing, and then once I'm confident of where I'm going, what I'm picking up, I might not be confident about the combat, you know, that could still
There's enjoying the game as well.
But then I realise there's two things that are going to be missing then. I want to burst into tears the first time I play the game online, and I want people to see that it's really had that effect. That's not going to happen if I'm playing it for the 6th or 7th time.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I'm kind of thinking that I've got to try to be there as soon as possible.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm kind of nervous about that, just because of my style of gameplay. I'm not great with the combat, but also I'm going to be in the same situation as a lot of people who are playing the original game now for the first time, which I'll just come back to in a second, of doing all of that exploring, having to check every little nook and cranny to see if there's something to pick up. And to do that for an hour, to get out of one section, which once you're really familiar with it, you'll do it in a minute.
Yeah.
You know, it's fun to do maybe as a player, but it can't be easy to watch.
No, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like when you're I'm doing a playthrough of Rise of the Tomb Raider, and I find it difficult to hang around in an area for such a long time, because I'm constantly thinking people get bored.
Yeah.
You know, they just keep seeing the same thing over and over again, when really I just want to go around and every nook and cranny and like stop there for a minute and look at the place. And
I think part of the thrill of streaming is that you don't just want to sort of put across whatever personality you may have or your love for the game. You also want to show that you are at least competent at playing the game, and you actually know what you're doing. And I find it really difficult, and we might as well just bring this in now, because it was on the list of things to talk about. I have noticed over the past 6 months that I have seen more people playing the original game blind for the first time than I had in probably the year and a half before that.
Well, it's an emotional roller coaster, isn't it? So there's going to be a lot to be had from their experiences, seeing them for the first time. Like, you know, if they didn't know the story whatsoever, you know, to someone else as well, it's going to be appealing to watch, because it's like, yeah, this bit's going to happen, wait for it. As long as they're not typing in the chat, you know, this is going to happen, and spoiling it for people.
Well, we've had this tremendous knock-on effect of the teasers for the sequel, because of course there were teasers for the original game, except the problem then, of course, that it was a complete unknown. You know, Naughty Dog do have the pedigree, you know, with the likes of the Uncharted series, so people know that they're going to get quality product, but it's still a new IP. And advertising is advertising. You're always going to make things look the best they possibly can for the sake of an advert, which a teaser trailer obviously is. So you would have a certain number of people who would buy into it the moment they saw that, but you'd also have a significant number who'd sort of say, well, it looks okay, but I'm a fan of such and such a game, and that's what I'm going to do instead. So they wouldn't have bought it. Well, now, with there being so much universal hype for the sequel, you're finding a lot of people who are sort of saying to themselves, hang on, have I missed a trick here? Have I missed something?
Yeah.
And they're going out and getting the game and playing it for the first time.
All right.
And I am so jealous. There is one thing that I really hate.
Get to play it for the
first time. I'll never be able to do that again.
No, and it's
and these lucky bastards who have been able to do that. I hate them.
Forget you've ever played the game. Come on, play it for the first time again. See that bit and go, oh my god. But you know, had you not developed a connection with Joel and the way things were, would you still feel that you know, first time you see Sarah die, would you still feel the same as you did the first time you've seen it, or the fourth time you've seen it and you started to develop a connection against the character Joel?
The problem is the first time I saw it, I was absolutely in bits, and it wasn't just that. There were several sections where I just thought, this is the best thing I've ever seen. You know, what this is bringing out of me. I'm kind of in the fortunate position of having a daughter of exactly the same age as Ellie when the game first came out. But that really wasn't all that relevant because we moved on to, you know, the remastered version, which I only bought about a year ago. So I didn't have much gameplay experience really. I just watched mostly playthrough coverage. It was more the emotional reaction that I got from it first time of actually watching was just because it was so honest, it was so well acted, and it was really, really affecting. The worst part is when you go through it the second time and you already know what's going to happen. And in some ways, it's almost as if that is a problem with the game. It's a horrible thing to think of, but The Last of Us is so good at what it does emotionally. The problem is that part of that emotion comes from the shock at what has happened or what has been said. You know, God, you know, how could you say you're not my daughter, I'm not your dad, that kind of thing. Second time you play it, you know that it's coming up. And however honest you are with your own emotions, you can't pretend that you are affected just as much the second time that you watch it. But because so much of that game is emotional, the more of that emotion that you lose as you play it again and again and again, is that kind of, if the game was all about the gameplay, truly addictive gameplay, you wouldn't get tired of it ever, would you? But it isn't all about the gameplay. The gameplay is kind of a very good, a very accomplished bolt-on to the story and the emotional backdrop that goes with that. And it's very I mean, the miracle is that actually it does survive for me. I can still play it over and over. I can't go a week without at least playing through it, whether I stream or not.
Yeah.
Because I start to miss it.
I know Sarah point and the Ellie points, they're very emotional, but I think the most emotional bit I took that was the Tess bit.
The what? Oh, Tess, right, okay.
Because thinking about it, like trying to telling them to go, just go, and then she's having to pretty much face death in the face by herself, and it's like the strength it's taken her to turn around and be like, right, this is where I'm going to die, I'm going to take some down with me, and turn around and like, just go, make this easy for me. You know, if he didn't go there and then, and him having to pull the strength and go, he was thinking along the lines of, I'm going because I'm trying to make this easier for you, and you're telling me to go so I can make it easier for you.
I think one of the greatest little lines and it really is a little line. You can without the subtitles, I bet most people wouldn't even realise that it's being said. But there's just a point. It's the just before Tess says, "No, just go, just fucking go." Joel actually starts to say, "I can fight."
Yeah.
And you think, what a pointless thing to say. You already know what's going to happen. And it's just an indication of how badly that has just hit Joel. He just can't think rationally anymore.
Yeah.
And it's so well done. And like I said, you can't hear it. You've got to be so without we explained before that I hate subtitles being on there. Without the subtitles, you'd easily miss that little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But that was one of the catalyst parts of the game for me. They both obviously cared deeply that they made it easier for each other in indirect, without becoming overly emotional and stuff. They were both like, we're gonna do this, okay, let's go. I'm not gonna let my emotions beat me.
Can I do what's your favourite colour thing? Just to lower the tone really, really, really badly down to silly levels. But kind of serious in a way. Do you have a favourite line from the game? For any reason, whether it's funny, emotional.
Joel needs a car.
Yeah. Right with you. Joel needs a car.
Parks. We've got parks.
We actually get 2 Joel needs a car, which is great. We get 2 for the price of 1.
I know, I love it.
Oh, no, there's another one. Hey, thanks, Tommy.
Thanks, Tommy.
We're going to finish then, but with just one more subject, and it's kind of been raised. This is where we actually get the chance to have some real anger and raging before we quit the podcast, because it's healthy in a shitty way. I'm going to say the word speculation.
Ooh, speculation.
That's the name of the game. We hate it, don't we, Chuck?
Yes. It's just random bull crap, really.
Yeah.
And especially a few things that get mentioned, like Ellie's pregnant and what bollocks. I mean...
Yeah, no, hang on. Yeah, but she is pregnant, and she's pregnant by either a baby or a dog, we think. Because we've seen both. Oh, and a horse. There's a horse.
Oh, damn.
Callus comes back as a bloater.
Bestiality or what?
Yeah.
Wow. What's the worst speculation that you've heard?
The worst? Just the idea that David comes back.
Yeah, that's silly.
It's kind of, and the reason for that really is you can understand dramatic reasons for having something that comes back in the form of whether it's a dream or something, but it's completely misunderstanding what David was supposed to do in the original game, which was to just turn Ellie into this other person. His job's done. He can go now.
If they were a bit more realistic like in the concept part here, you see the inhabitants of the lakeside resort. David's pleasant-looking pack of cannibals contrasts with dark, snowy ice over environments. Yeah. There's kids, there's hunters, there's a bunch of people there.
Well, the important thing is women and children.
Yeah, what's to say that, I mean, here we're going into speculation here. David had a family. And that family, obviously the cannibals, maybe they come back to haunt her.
Well, the problem is... Yeah, we have the difficulty here is that if we have some kind of returning David in the sequel, there isn't a real world way in which he could be incorporated.
No, his face was mashed in with a machete.
Yeah, and first of all, he could not survive that, and even if he did, it would probably be about 2 or 3 years before he was able to actually be mobile in any way. Mm-hmm. And what we're talking about then is some bloke and a girl whose name he will probably remember as Ellie have gone. Where? How the hell is he ever going to find out where they disappeared to? It's preposterous to think that he could ever return in any real form. Which only leaves the possibility, if he's going to be there at all, Ellie is going to have some flashback, in which case it's irrelevant. He therefore doesn't actually play a role as such.
The only way a flashback would work if it was a DLC.
Much preferable.
So that's the only way it could work. You could get the blank in like they did with Left Behind.
Yeah.
And
is there anything that was missed out of the winter scene that we want to have filled in? And it didn't leave me with any questions, but any for you?
Not really, no. I mean, a lot of it's already been gone over. But I would have liked to have seen more of the pack of David's.
The rest,
where they lived, how they lived. I mean, they were cannibals, yeah, but all we seen was a cell and a mashed up body on a table.
Yeah, and it's very easy to assume when you see that kind of thing that they lived as cannibals. Well, of course they didn't. Cannibalism was something that in the toughest of times they would have to resort to, because look where they are, look what the conditions are like. It's not, they can't nip down to a supermarket, they can't go and loot a food store somewhere.
No.
They've got to kill whatever they can, you know. We don't know if the dead people are ones that they've actually gone out and looked for, or whether it's just people who have died, you know.
Yeah, it's whether they've just died naturally, or they've actually particularly gone out and took them by the throat and said, we're having you for dinner.
Yeah. Well, it wouldn't be a case of that. You know, it would be a case of, you know, it's very easy to imagine because remember what David says to Ellie, I sent some men out to a nearby town to look for food. Well, they're not going to go all the way to Boulder, which is something like at least 10 or 15 miles away on foot in winter from, you know, where Lakeside Resort is, to look for food. Well, they're not going to look for people to carry 10 or 15 miles back. They can't do it. They're going to look for food.
Well, they could try and find survivors and take them back to their camp where they're walking themselves.
Where they might kill them. Yeah. But it would be a case of that's not primarily what they're looking for. They wouldn't be going into a town looking for people in the way that hunters would. That's how the hunters survive. But of course, where David's group live, they're well away from any towns or cities. So they probably rely on nature a bit more.
Like you said before, they were very organised.
Extremely.
And they were very thorough. We're going to be thorough.
Yeah.
I remember that when we're...
Oh, but remember the most telling one is in the financial district where Joel drops down and the guy comes running in. You know, they're all dead. All 67 of the lookout guys, whoever it was, he killed them. You know, he killed them all 67.
It almost reminds you of Kill Bill, isn't it? When like she kills all of her men. Like the Crazy 88.
Yeah, but that's it. You see, we're not living in a we're not living in a world where somebody's got a computer system which is keeping a record of where all the people are, and you can say, there's exactly 67 of these guys. Somebody has done a head count of exactly how many guys there were that went out. So that is proper organisation. Yeah. If it's 5 or 6, all right, there's 5 or 6 of them. They've gone right and they're dead. Okay, that's fine. No, 67 is a big number. Yeah,
and to take out 67 of your people, you're going to be pissed.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it does go back to what you said. They are very, very organised. It's properly a properly run organisation. Brutal as hell, yes. Mm-hmm. Just aside from the game, there is an interesting thought that came to mind. I like the idea maybe of co-op play a little bit more. I don't think anybody's really thought about it. Now, with games like A Way Out, which has just come out now, it has to be lovely to see something like that, wouldn't it? Where you could actually play as Ellie and Joel.
Yeah, I'd be Ellie, you'd be Joel, and we'd be in our own houses and playing the game, and I'd enjoy that. That would be good.
Wow. Naughty Dog, are you listening?
Yes, please.
Scrap whatever you've got so far.
Co-op. Maybe they'll have a co-op mode. Maybe.
That would be really nice.
Like you could fight them both together. It could work. Never know.
Right, so I'm going to say a really, really silly thing here now, and you guys listening to this now after it's uploaded and all that kind of thing, you're going to be thinking, what are you talking about? The reality is that we are now looking at about 6:30 in the evening UK time, which is kind of half an hour after Amy intended to be back with a 1.5 hour drive. So we're going to stop the podcast there. I've got to do all the editing and get it uploaded, which is going to take forever. And Amy's going to send some images over. We can't do, unfortunately, video and things like that because it's just a bit difficult. We've got to try to fill about 1 hour 40, about 1 hour 40 with images. Do you reckon we can do that? No.
Don't know.
I'll have to have a word with my friend on...
It'd be some images and maybe the music in the background.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'll have to.
I've got my USB stick with me. So.
I've got my. I have to have a word with my friend on Twitter, who's been really good. Actually, he's taken a lot of PS4 share pictures.
You could actually put some video in some of them, like, because you've got a good amount there to be able to put over like a 10-minute video.
Yeah, I think what I'd probably try to do is the difficulty is filling going on for 2 hours with one or the other, and I think the problem is you're trying to do video. You've got to download some pretty big video files, basically.
Or
so
you
I
could
think
record it on there and share it.
the problem then is I've still got to download it to incorporate it in the edit.
Or find some original footage on YouTube, download that,
Yeah.
and use that.
Oh yeah, but it's just need a lot of it. That's all.
Yeah.
That's the only problem. Yeah, sorry, we're just talking technical there. Ignore us. Oh, welcome back. Just as we say goodbye. So, thank you everybody for listening. This I don't know whether this is a one-off, but obviously it takes a fair bit of arranging and time and having things to talk about. And ping, something just went ping. You might have heard that. It's just a USB stick. Don't worry. So I'm going to get to work on this, and am I going to do some more? Yeah, I'll do some more streaming. Go on, you persuaded me. What are your plans game wise?
Probably Tomb Raider tonight.
Okay.
I didn't finish it last night, so I'll try again tonight if I get back in good time.
All right. Well, I will not be streaming because I'm going to be working. Goes without saying. So this is Thelas signing off. I should just say Deano because obviously I can pronounce the name. This is me signing off, saying bye-bye.
This is me signing off, saying bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, chaps. Bye.
Ciao.